the Gatinchi Shebet, Duby in some Chinseti. Shella Penta Benny, or Jin Gatinchi, Zero Zamyang, Sem Nani, Majunya, but in this some Guyamaris, so Shella Pembeche, Dachu Sheba in Bazisa. 아니 디까지 렉소티 뉴기야 말이스 까지 치자매 시기민도 시제네 아니 근데 삼규야 말이스 어다 디시기야로 어친민도세 어친세야디 까지 치세야게 되되버인서봐 다리게 다지 쿠란도를 취셰베이 취 쿠란도게 까지 치자매시야 Sigimindo Samsa Tindegi Jinguya Malaysia did origin to said.
Where we have reached in that text is actually it's the last of the advices, pieces of advice, the advices for the mind training. And it's the one in Tibetan is Madus or midus. So the Roche actually does mean thank you. So what this is saying is you shouldn't want to be thanked. In other words, you shouldn't think about any kind of reward, even so much as being thanked, being told, you know, you did well kind of thing. When we've helped others by teaching Dharma to them, for example. No.
Tene Che Shebala, Che Jebala, Yenda than Lexus, Chigitara, Pama Chosta, Che Shebe, Titina, Susu Yenda, Yagi Chedudan, Lexus, the Payaju, Yabushita Johnson, Tene Chig of G. Dene, any Shegu Yamari, Jebre. Yenda Dene Shegu Yamari, Chigilesu Dene Shegu Yamaris. That is what did it? That did it. Chigitara, Poncho said they did it. She shaved the Yenda Yachidu, Shagi Amaris. Any Chigi lecture of the Yabushita Johnson's touching us here, Tindig lecture of the Dene Chishigi Amaris every.
What this advice is teaching us, in other words, what it's advising us is that if we've taught the Dharma, when we teach the Dharma, we should never teach in order to be famous, in order to get a good reputation, nor even with the thought of being thanked. Teaching so that you know, with the thought that you'll be thanked in some way because of your teaching. No.
That in Nani that Medribu Sitita Church Yeta Senya Nigavi Medribu Medribu and Tundam that Kundub Janju Sim Nibu Nyamsha that Chetup Geneg of Sulepra Chandis. That Tundam Janju Sim de Tuni to be Shirab Tirba. Musum to be Shirab Telet Tundam Janju Sim Cigar, Tajanju Sim Gisimbe. Penanyarangi Chuletuning to be Shira Yarity, Janju Sim Gisimbe, Tuning Musum to be Shira Mesa. And we turned that Janju Sim Sigia Mari. That Tiba Chimbi Tonam Tobe. Tuning Musum to Toba Teach and the Tonam Tobi Arbatine. And a Tungi Combati. Tundam Chanju Sim Sigare. Just a Medribu Tundam Chanju Sim, the Yamshaganeg of Yamsulam. 제도비게네 수 군조 생기때 냠술라네 라고레스 메제 테부 간담다 장 군조비게 장주게 셈니 냠샤다 제도비게네 수 레바르 장한데스 다디제
Mm. The text goes on to explain that the teacher and the listener alike should spend their whole life, which means during the training their mind in the two kinds of bodhicitta, the conventional bodhicitta, the mind wishing enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, and ultimate bodhicitta, which is the realization of emptiness, which I'll explain a little bit more in a moment. So train in that during the, always train in those during the meditation session and during the break between meditation sessions. So the two bodhicittas, of those two bodhicittas, conventional, which is the usual bodhicitta, ultimate bodhicitta is the non-conceptual realization of emptiness, the bare perception of emptiness, which is held by, somehow injected with imbued with the bodhicitta. So what that means is that the hearer and solitary realizer arhats, they do have a bare perception of emptiness, but that bare perception of emptiness they have, that non-conceptual realization of emptiness that they have, isn't called ultimate bodhicitta because it's not imbued with or sustained by bodhicitta, the conventional bodhicitta. Whereas when one reaches the Mahayana path of seeing, which you do by achieving this non-conceptual realization of emptiness, then that non-conceptual realization of emptiness is called ultimate bodhicitta. No.
냠샤기네 수 된담 생기 냠술nem다 가르세네 말한데 나시세베 최 탐제 말한들 나야기 리라 칸김 세괴네멜 소바 두스 나야기 최 탐제 또베 파타 좀 예스고예레 이내야 유딩네 두바 뒤쯤이야 매년바티 야야 삼바텔레다 구주 된담 자주그 심 냠술네 주티티리 나시세베 최 탐제 또베 파타 좀 마도 유딩네 두바 뒤쯤이야 매 사바티다 또베 파타 좀 예스고리 최 탐제 예스 유딩네 코란 근외네 두바티 뒤쯤이야 매 냠바텔레다 야야 일지야텔레다 된담 자주그 심 냠술네 주티티리 대예선에 나시시베 최스나 아람줄 나야기 리장 칸김 세괴네마다 소바투스 탄 또베 파다 점도 야 또베 파다 점도 야리 미슈 랑식을 주바 뒤점이야 메스치네 원래 타제네 안에 랑식을 주바 메세가 다가란라 셈지지도 네네 야네 양도 티 일에 제바들다 된담 잔주그 심 냠술렌지 시기야레
As for how to practice ultimate bodhicitta during the session, during our meditation session, this would mean thinking about how everything which appears and which is possible, which means everything in our world, mountains, trees, houses, food, clothing, all of these, in fact, they are mere imputations from the side of the mind, from the side of the conceptual mind, but they don't exist So it would mean thinking they don't, despite the fact that in fact that they are mere imputations, they appear to exist from their own side, but they actually don't have a single atom, a particle of existence from their own side. And so we would be placing our mind on that fact, that reality, repeatedly, focusing our attention on that with total conviction, thinking like that repeatedly during the meditation session. No.
다트네 제톱기네가 수시드 동반이들의 야란이 렌시기 매스베 냠샤들의 람베지스 야 추탐제나기를 심제 탐제나기를 동일진기 심제라서봐 네 군저베 추탐제나기를 봐 대나와티 체네tin 아 군저베 심제라 메네 아니 동일진기 심제라 메네 장주기 심 냠술랑 스티다 란주텔 근데면아 뒤죽고는 냠술랑주지 다시 냠지구고는 냠술랑주니야리 디네 디샤야티 다시 냠지구고네 야 장주기 심 냠술랑주티 군접 장주기 심 냠수 제도기네가 군접 장주기 심 냠술랑주시야티 디리 디인다 그래서네다 이 냠샤레 야 당인데 라야 동해지게 심절로 수바 빠두메버디 대외 풍시 동해기나 심지 빠두메버 난게르바란줄라 야르바 이 여산에 디다와 디에체네 티는 이지다 장바드니지kum 장바드니지kum 차네 아니 니지미 바체투토네 동아체 렘바체 장베미 바체투토네 니 동아세 동네 구매하디 딱 제도기네가 수군조 전주기 심 냠술인 주시야디 디레스
Then when it says when it talks about the session in between, sorry, the period in between meditations, which is referred to as something like the period of subsequent attainment, jidop. So what that means is that during the meditation we've been thinking how there's nothing that exists by its own nature. Then when we arise from the meditation, in other words, when we come out of the meditation, the suffering sentient beings are going to appear and various conventional phenomena are going to appear to us. And so during the break, the advice is to reflect on or to generate the conventional bodhicitta, the mind wanting to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And so how you would do that is you would think about those sentient beings, suffering sentient beings, and generate the awakening mind through reflecting on them. And there are two ways of generating bodhicitta. You have the 7 cause and effect instruction, and you also have the other way of generating it, which is called equalizing, exchanging self and others. So here, because this is in the context of the 7-point mind training, the way to meditate on bodhicitta would be via the equalizing and exchanging self and others. So you would think about all of the infinite sentient beings. So they would appear to you in your meditation. Sorry, this is outside the meditation, isn't it? So anyway, there are countless sentient beings that appear to you, and you would be thinking about how you would see that they don't have real happiness, and generate a sense of loving kindness towards them, wanting them to be happy. They don't have happiness, you want them to have happiness. And then thinking about their suffering, you generate compassion, wanting to free them from their suffering, and then practice donglen, taking and giving. So these are described as in taking would be where you focus your mind on the objects of compassion and you imagine taking their suffering, and then you focus on the objects of loving kindness. It's like you single out the objects of the objects of loving kindness, the sentient beings that are lacking happiness, and you imagine you imagine giving them happiness. No.
Lebar changde seti chanju kusem ngibati nyamsulimdi lebar yapu chagosuna tene chiwa jungna didar chas chiwa tene samlo dinde tangu yu dundam chanju kusem nyamsulimdi kundub chanju kusem nyamsulimdi seti ane chiwa jungna didar chis cha jungna didar cha lam dikhene nata jungna dungela soba kanda kang jungna yang se didar cha sta ta kunzub ge janju ge semye bu dia bu chi chang so na ane chiwe chene samlo danda di chiwe chene chiwe dangma de tongma se ju ba o dambu kabu samde ge top se de rangi ngobodi chojo le tang ka tu tang de tang sa sune tene tembe tops gombe tops ani Sunjimbe tops ani o de tides tonga yarba
No.
esani tonga di chiwe chene tene tonga di jainde dambuti kabu samde stop sayadre tene pemba sayadi nge tinde chigi sayadi samlata yadre nge de pene chanju simni buti mejeba chanju sim nyamne ti chigi sambarabchi tene kombeto sene chanju simni buti komba tene komba seti pena chige se nyela kunzub chanju sim kum ne tongne kum shenge tunge tamja rangi tunge ge tentu chulang rangi dege tamja simja shala patang di kunzub chanju sim nyamsulam jujirba chiwe chine di je tene samlu tangju yeba je di je chasuna tene tamadila ane che tamja rangi yuduba tuyi me jene tanda chanju sim ji nyamsha daga rangi tegne pa chiwa vesile jubayi na che tamja da tongne kum charaba tongne kum ane che tamja rashi nashi tibe che tamja chiwa ga chunbe da chiwa le yungwe chiwa ga chunbe che tamja dobe pada chamle 유딩네 주바트 당연히 스타 코르체네 다갱한도 자식이메 다게 코레나네 아니 지워시 차투버지 지야들 아니 지워지는 사람들인데 다들 동마세야지 덜드네
No. Then in the text it says train well. So what this means is if we understand well, if we've understood well, then we need to make the decision that at the time of death, I must practice these two bodhicittas. If I'm troubled by an enemy, I shall practice the 2 bodhicittas. If I'm ill, then I will practice the 2 bodhicittas. So remember that the advice in the text for how to practice at the time of death was the 5 forces. So the first one would be the force of the white seed. So that would mean your possessions. You give them away, use them for Dharma purposes. And then you have the power of the plan. That's the second one. Third, the power of habit or familiarity. Then the fourth one, the fourth of destruction. I think we usually call it that. Then the fifth one, the power of the prayer. So with the power of, I already mentioned about the power of the white seed, then the power of the plan. So that would be making a decision. I'm going to practice bodhicitta, these 2 bodhicittas. Then the power of familiarity. So you see that, for example, sorry, no, it's not for example, is it? What we're talking about is death here. Okay, so you see death approaching, and you use your time to meditate on bodhicitta. And then because you want to practice bodhicitta, so you practice taking and giving. When you practice taking and giving, tonglen, then that's how to practice bodhicitta. Then at the end of your meditation, you've been reflecting on those. Then at the end, you would finish off by thinking that nothing at all has even a particle of existence from its own side. You'd think that death and all other phenomena, they're mere imputations by the conceptual mind, and you make a strong decision that that's how things are, that's how it is. No.
that this one.
No, let it.
Dine Rajung Tidarja Lam to Kiris. Tarabji Johnson, Rana Nobachi, Taraj Johnson, Nujila Chimanyebe Sobakumya Yerba, Sobakum. Ani Nobachi Johnson, Nobati Nuji Tigi, Gange Tamje, Rang Chu down to Lang. She Susu Dege Tamje, Nuji de la Patang, Dongle Kumni. Ani Chanju Gangan Amdulong Sejiba, Gang and Bakandic Tarabaji Tesuneti, Chanju Simi Peve, Tos Kene, Gangan Amdulong Asinde, Lojong to Kene, Ani Yamnachi Woodies, Tajuna Tetarches, Tajuna Chetan Tarana Nuji, Nevachinia Tajuna. Nujili Chiminya Sobakum Guiba.
No.
Ale Tambu Sobadecum, Tene Nujigi, Nujiti, Rangi Pama Imbala Soba, Gadi Chimbu Imbala Soba Tinde Samne, and then Nujigi Tungetamja Ragu Chulane, Ragati, Tigatum Nujili Patang, only Tongne Jukuni change with some Yamsuna, Tijabaina. Nujigi Taj Chuati, Janju Sim Peve Yamnet Kirbachung, King it Lamdulon Sia de Chungaris. Done Nujigi Tajuna Tidaches, Samlotayatita, Yige Kunzub that turned and Janju Sim but the Apokumba. Nature Junia de Samlutan Gimba. Nujigi Tajunia. Janju Simi Peve Lam to Kene, Dona Kumiata, Ani, Dunda Janju Sim Kumiati, Chogure Sigari.
No. It also says in the text, do the same thing in the case of meeting with an enemy. So when we talk about an enemy, that means somebody who's harming you. And so we know from our, we know there is the teaching that we need to practice patience, the patience which makes light of harm that's done to us. So the process begins by thinking that the enemy is my father, is my mother, is so kind to me. And then practice bodhicitta by meditating on taking and giving, which means you think the enemy, you think about the enemy and you think of taking all their problems upon yourself, all their difficulties, and then giving all of your happiness to them. So this is taking difficult circumstances into the path, transforming difficult circumstances in the path. So that's something which has been taught in this text. So you're using that situation in the path. So what this is saying is you've trained your mind in the two bodhicittas, and then having trained your mind in two bodhicittas, then you make up your mind, if I have to face an enemy, this is what I'll do, and this is how you would practice. No.
Nada chuna siduga.
No.
Nada chuna nada lam kiri singe chiyare. Tunge chuna tunge lam kiri siyare. Jasane nada rachi chungsuna rangi nada di. Chungsuna rangi nada di tengtu semje tamje tunge tamje. Rangi nada di tengtu langne. Semje tamje ne tunge tamje le tresung sambache. Mikpachiyati nada lam kiri siyare. 나자레지 제데 내레지 포스나 내디 띵도 장게 내디 띵도 심제 탐제게 둥내 탐제 내디 띵도 랭네 내 내디게 심제 탐제게 둥내 탐제 그 추바쇼 삼제 아니 심제 탐제를 강에 둥내 탐제 자와쇼 삼바제 rangi neti tendu simjegi tamjegi tu neti neti tendu lane nyen neti simje tamjegi dunge tamje kuya chuba sho simje tamjeli dunge tamje dewa sho sambarab chichayasana nazati lamdi kebare nazo lamdi kesune ani jambe mi 니지 미빠제도 되네. 이제 탐지고 동해들한 게 나한테 뒤에 돌려 봐임 봐. 대심제 탐제 네 동해 탐제도 대화 재송 선배제베이나 드네 니지 미빠제도 되네. 렘바세야 뒤중으로. 뒤 아니 가수 그래. 동네니게 나네 렘바세야 뒤중으로. 어디지 나저지 중순에 삼르띠다나 아니 장주고 셈 군도 장주고 셈라 공부 제바들이 디 거쳐버리 던덤 장주고 셈기 결수 제베는 나자싱이티 라시고 두바투면 매섬 나자디 첨배치 탐제를 시고 두바투면 매섬버제니 다와 템바체스나 나자디 띵기 단도 전주고 셈이 공발라 반주스나 나자디 갱기 군도 전주고 셈이 냠네 케스나 어다디니 지부티 나자 중스나 나자남도 키즈세야 되레스
Likewise, when illnesses befall us, then there is this way of practicing. We talk about taking illness into the path. We talk about, in the case of suffering arising, take suffering into the path. If we're ill, take the illness into the path. Use it in the path. So the way to do this is by thinking that you've taken all of the suffering of all the sentient beings. So you think about the suffering of sentient beings, you think of taking that suffering, and you think that you've taken all of that suffering. So, and you think to yourself, through me being ill, or through me experiencing this pain, may the sentient beings not experience any suffering. And when you think of taking, and you think, now I've taken all their suffering, then you would think to yourself, so now I'm suffering instead of them. So, and then we can likewise make prayers for all sentient beings to be free of all suffering. So in your meditation, you're taking all the suffering of all sentient beings. And we can also pray for that to actually happen. And when we take willingly, not reluctantly, we take willingly. And in this way, as I said, then we have been practicing taking illness into the path. So just like before, practicing taking by focusing on the objects of compassion, and then you imagine taking that suffering from them out of compassion. And you need to think very strongly, I took their suffering, I took it from them. And in this way, you've practiced taking in the pair, taking and giving, Donglen. You've practiced taking. And in this way, the illness has actually helped you. It's helped you in your practice. And then if you're able to, after having thought in that way, then think, this illness, like all phenomena, is completely lacking in even a particle of existence from its own side. And then in this way, your illness will have acted as a condition for you, a condition that helped you to practice conventional bodhicitta and also ultimate bodhicitta. No.
That in Tunge Juna, Tunge so Kanda Ganjunya, Seta Tunge so say, Dinala Sogunala Mambayarba, Rangal Kange Tea Mambayarba, Kange Kanje Tesunesi, Tunge Tungesia di capture, another the capture much. Rana Tunge, Semgi Tunge, Luigi Tunge. Dine or Kande Chichungsune. Ani Tunge di Dinde Tunge di Nazamai, Yamda Vesemje Tamjela, Tunge Diles Hataji, Ninjikun to Tungegin Nartebari Narte Yu Sambache. Ani Dige Tunge Tamje, Yendi Tunge Digi, Tengdu, Min Basho, Mine, Shengi Tunge Tamje. Yendi Kucho Basho, Shanla Tunge Tita Minjuan shows Chamba Chabina. Ani Kundu Chajuki Sim Yamsulindes. Dene, I to make it chimbe, sim chitamje tope pata tamle. Eating it to do some young man, Sanya, who eating it to what a chinangi about to nesitu. There's a to make it tope pata tam meshuji. Eating it in a to do some young man, Sambachavina. Tanda Janju Simkin Yamlan Pakisuna.
No.
What is an any? That to me so that to me so gunala Lama Chivenamla Karasuga. Dona Sanganawa Chishayan says, Chugin in Butong and Yanaji. Janju Simi Pevelam Juti eat the Bashukum, but change of Siva. What that is in a Tunge society. Tunge Junenda. Yang Kibu Junsen and Chanju Simkin Yamnet Karasugre 알사 단지
Bona
Dona
sangena.
sangen nawa chi shenya chabiban dona sitata dorti bare. Ngembe ge nawa kandi chi kange ge nawa kandi chi shalsune. Chanju simni pebe tros kebu des. Ya sambu ge nawa kandi chi chunsune. Chanju simni pebe tros pa kebu des. Pene rale tiki de chi chunsuna. Tiki de rajubu mayimba. 아니 내 디기디 심제 탐제를 봐. 심제 탐제 대회 폰데 버리. 디생 내 디기디 심제 탐제를 봤다네. 아니 기내 대화 초송어 팬데 나가 강화쇼 스티 랑기 디기디 심제 탐제를 봤다. 나가 저게 심제 탐제기 내니 대회 폰버데 세스문 냠버체나 팬데 나가 강화쇼 세들이 아니 동나군기 동에 쿠르스 동에 자주 겜바쇼스 강에 지체서는 강에랑 그 강에 뒤된도 마sem제 탐제 그 강에 탐제 녜디 된도 민바쇼 녜디 그르치바쇼 샹라 강에 뒤다 민주바쇼 스제베나 아니 기나 동나군기 동에 쿠르스 동에 그 군기 동에 들랑기 동에 땅도 나네 군기 동에 들랑기 그렇죠 버쇼 삼전에 삼루다 아니 동에 자주 겸바쇼 쓰지 동에기 자주 semje 탐제 그 주지 동에도 수 겸바쇼 쓰지 동에기 자주 매바쇼 동에기 자주 매바쇼 다 감바쇼 동에기 자주디 자주를 배샤네 디 감바쇼 제버바 어때들이 두나 꾸이지 동에 쿠르 동에 자주 겸바쇼스 기나 대화 초송 팬데 난가 강화쇼스 야르바 로종 친나를 딘데 야르 와도 제니 디네 강에지 태순에 장주비 셈니버디기 냠네도 캐심버 구그리스 기부지 중순에 기부디기 차네 차신그 운동 마동하지 기부지 중에 아니 기부디 아니 심제 탐제를 디기디 심제 탐제를 따니 아니 심제 탐제는 팬데 나가 강화쇼 팬바트 때에게 잡아쇼 삼바제베지나 아니 기부지 중에 장주그 셈이 별람 베나 라네 디기 주준선의 디기디 심제 탐제기 아니 대화 파 심제 탐제를 따네 심제 탐제 대화든 템바 대화 탐제도 템바 제송 삼바제 디마세 쳬탐제 또베다 기부를 주준도 잠바야디 차베 온도 소야 있는 게 여러봐 디기디야 또베 파다 잠래 러시그 두버트다야네 삼바제베나 니 차베 온도 두비야 말이 라시메베 게더 제사 전담 전주 생기 냠네 참바래 군조스 전주 생기 냠네 참송아 어디 간걸로다 먼저 도나상에 나와 지신 주근용부터 냠네지 전주 생기 표현 남주도 이드 버시kum바 진질로 전에 딘데 삼르다니 이 대화 버시 공구래 저래 딜로 준 거다 로종이 거바를 뒤들이 다 되게 로종 군도 장주고 있습니다. 돈담 장주고 있습니다. 로장 장발라더니 가래야 됐으네. 강에 제도 좀 봐. 강에 세야 파. 탐랑을 규르고 해야 돼. 어디 인스나 로종 지야 뒤디 임버려. Lojong yadi rangi kange sange ki nawachi kange chedu kange ki cheni kange ki ondu masunga cheya kibu chundu zamba chabe ondu masunga kibu de tewala sindalo diji yunga manam tabiya manam chamje tamna digiyare jasan dik jire stalo chungu kubatire
in the text, there's an around this, explanation. There's the word etc. appears, so that etc. includes all kinds of problems. So besides the problems that we've mentioned, there are so many other kinds of problems. So those are all included here when it says etc. Whichever kind of suffering arises, it says the thing is, when we talk about suffering on the one hand or pain on the other, suffering is a more sort of like all-encompassing. It encompasses more anyway, more experiences. Pain encompasses less experiences, and so what this is saying is that when any suffering occurs in our lives, then we think not just of ourselves, we think to ourselves, it's not just me that has this suffering. There are countless other sentient beings who have this suffering, and even worse, who are suffering like me, and so many that are suffering even worse than I am. And so we think about that, and then we think, may all of their suffering ripen on me. May I have all of their suffering, in other words. And so, and then think, instead of them suffering, may I suffer instead. So this is meditating on conventional bodhicitta. And besides that, thinking that this problem, this suffering, whatever it might be, thinking it doesn't have even the slightest existence from its own side, doesn't have even a particle of existence from its own side, and is a mere imputation from the side of the conceptual mind. So again, going back to that word, etc., is just like in the Lama Chopa, there's a verse in the mind training verses. There's 5 verses on mind training, and it says, in brief or in summary, whatever appears, whether it's something nice or whether it's something bad, may I use the situation, may I use that for developing the 2 bodhicittas, and in this way always keep my mind happy, which is actually the essence of the mind training, the essential purpose of the mind training, to enhance the 2 bodhicittas and to keep one's mind in a happy state. So it says in summary, whether the appearances are good appearances or whether the appearances are bad appearances, I will train in the 2 bodhicittas. When things are going well, when I'm happy, then think not just of oneself, think of all those sentient beings who are without happiness, and think, you imagine giving all of your happiness to them so that they receive all happiness. All the sentient beings receive all happiness. And in fact, there's a particular verse that's related to this. It mentions when I'm happy, then may happiness fill the whole of space. And what that means is, when I'm happy, then may I give all my happiness to all of the sentient beings who are equal to the extent of space, so that they will be completely happy. So whatever happiness that I'm experiencing, I give it, and all the sentient beings receive all happiness. And then when we suffer, when we experience suffering, then as the prayer goes, when I suffer, then may the ocean of samsara be dried up. So it's likening cyclic existence or samsara to an ocean. So in other words, then here also, when we have difficulties, when we have whatever kind of problem it might be, then we imagine taking all of the suffering of all sentient beings so that they no longer have suffering. So you can meditate, or you can make the prayer to be able to take all of their suffering. That's also extremely, important to do. So the ocean of suffering. So you're making the prayer that through your suffering, the ocean of suffering be completely emptied. In other words, completely dried up, which put in other words means may the ocean of suffering, the ocean of cyclic existence, become completely non-existent. So when things are going well, we practice the two bodhicittas. When things are going badly, then we practice the two bodhicittas. It's important to practice the two bodhicittas when things are going well, because there is the risk that when things are going well for us, that we have more attachment. So we don't want that to happen. And so we need to practice the two bodhicittas to stop that attachment from happening. So then you'd have the meditation on giving. You give to all sentient beings. And so in this way, whether things are going well or whether things are going badly, you're using the situation for enhancing the practice of the two bodhicittas. And so, as I said, so this is, in this way, we will have accomplished the essential purpose of mind training, which is, as it's expressed in that Lama Chöpa verse, to train in the two bodhicittas, and depending upon that, for one's mind to always and only be in a happy state. No.
Te Lojong nyamnya ti kantu chitu chegures che tama majune chiki chunjene changures pena chikdi manju tuwe titip tume ku tena chizu lama toje ches lama la sundip chebrewa manju tuwe titip tume ku malu tata tana mi batang tagi tegi shanda tanga yin dugun te tante machingi lobs te lama chubati tongne ti chidan lama chubati ndu lensum dunguri odi yesani tama chigi chunje ne jangbures lo tone jantune yaburba lo tone tinde samlo tanya ti tambar tangures tene mata ti tan matune chigi chunje ne jangbures 다 chigi chunje ne jante karasena lama chubena chidi yabushibaya manjuduwe tiktib tuge kunse manjuduwe tikbatang tiba tunge kun malu tata tala mimba tangs tanda tata rana rangi ten tikiti mimba sho sabachi sui lenyati chebariwa tagi tegi shana tanga yesi tagi tewa ta kiwa tamze manangata nyamba simja tamze la tanga yesi tagi tegi shana tanga yi tukun tetan tenpa chingi lupsi nimarere chikdi lensum chotune ani chigi chunje ne jambare lo to de chama tune ani chigi dire jambala tene ne namshi china chigi Chigdilatini, Ani Arangi Jula, Chigdila Jabba Chigriba, Kari Shigatu, Chigdiga Kari Shigatu, Manju Tibs, Tipache Tibata, Titib Tungikus, Suliati Sumduga, Manju Tibata, Tibatan, Tungetamje, Madu Tata Mibatang Sati, Suliatiche. 다기 되기 동안 시간을 동안에서 다기 대화도 교화 탐제 시간을 동안이 두고 되다 된바 진길로 세지 두가 어디 이 말이래 내숨 제베네 치기 중 시제기 장바르와 어디 개체 무인시 치게 제사 르 장바데 장투네 장 르 장마트네 르이도니 만남이야 가야를 대마주나 다치기 준제 장보이나 치기 준제기 장고 그리 숨버려 어디 치기 단대디 알아마 집에 나기 동네기 치기 에야 보여지스 대나지들라마 투지진 시들라마라 선들제 아니 수가르소하다 그래서는 만주드베 티티퉁 그다 만루타타탈 멤버쇼스 제니 소아다비야레 다게 되게 샹나타 인 투그테다 마칭길로 소아다비야레 어데티 렌숨 제베이나 니마레 렌숨 제베이나 치기 토네 장주비 셈니 냠네 제버바 다디 어디래
No. And so it's really worthwhile, really important to practice these as much as we can. And at least, even if we're not able to train our minds this way, at least try to get into the habit of reciting it in words. So for this, there's a very wonderful verse about taking and giving in the Lama Chöpa. It's LC 95. And how it goes is, it says, and thus perfect, pure, compassionate Guru, I seek your blessings that all negative karmas, obscurations, and sufferings of mother, transmigratory beings may without exception ripen upon me right now. And that by giving my happiness and virtue to others, all transmigratory beings may experience happiness. And there is a tradition of reciting this 3 times. And so, even if we're only able to recite the words, that's really good. It says in the teachings, at least train in words. If you can, you train your mind, but if you can't, at least you recite words such as these, like this verse, which is really very good. So the meditation that goes with it and the meaning of the verse is first of all, you're thinking of all of the negativities and the obscurations and the suffering of sentient beings, and you're praying that all of that ripen on oneself. So that's taking. When we talk about taking and giving, tonglen, that's taking. And then you also in these 5 lines, the first line is a line of request to the Guru to be able to practice this way. And so then, you think then my happiness and my virtue, may this ripen on all the sentient beings, the countless sentient beings who are equal to the extent of space. So even just reciting that 3 times a day, even if you can't train your mind, that's really worthwhile. Because eventually, after reciting it for a long time, eventually you're going to ask yourself, what does that mean? What I've been reciting, what does it mean? And then that, so gradually it brings you to the actual practice of taking and giving. So reciting it in words in that way, and then, at least, and then if one is able to, then you meditate, reflect on the meaning, and you make prayers. Long.
Dede, Chigi Jati, Langan Debu Seve Jutuni, Gangalam Tulua, Chinjul Sini, Susula Nazarabutini Chunsuni, Nazatigi, Lang in Bedebu, Lang in Medebuti, Yawa Yita Tunduru Subater, Minsuna, Tungepa to Meva Yunku. Tia Lang in Bedebuti Rangin Sedilla. Nazaraji tindu nabina Nazaraji ani jungsuna lengen deputy sesum yambati cheguyari ti tendi cheguyari pena ti sha che indu tamba ti batasun yambati cheguyarba ti chegute ku sanjige sunshare Tinashi Langin Bedebuti Tasun Yambar Jebina Nazati Langin Bedebuti Retiarba. Debuti meet into Mimbati Kangi Shetag Chumayari. Tinyawa Tida Tundugitin to Mimbaina Ani Kanget Semeba Lotunda Mambuchini Tungetinyo Guguyarba. Jessa Langen Debu Sebe Gutuni Gangalam Tulua Chingilops. Gangbati Lang be table says on some Chavina. Lang be table to rate this Sebal Sebal Pento chair. Lang be table to says on some Lang be table memberba. That is says some Chesuna. Any Gangalam to Lord. What is I? Tanji Kung to cheek till Lamne to Yeretine. Langan Debu Sebe Gutuni, Kangalam to Loa Chingal Chevin, Rangi Sem Tindich Tambina, Lulina the Chuati, Shishirab. Tigi similar Gange Tigiyamari. Ludit not the June similar Gange Matayati. Kechi Shuimbri. Lulina the June Sem Doom Cheteva in it. Lulina the Tayamari. Ti kan to sim kan ti tungni lug na to tur duar yerba tile pe leng be tebses pe ya puchun sambar be chevina sem gi top tigi lug na to tile ya pento ya chung du ya ngoy me ba chia jingurba odi sane Take Chunjaki chance at the tick in the two Jan you do a hot yapariatis.
And then besides that, so we have that idea with the taking, giving to, to at least train in the taking, giving by reciting the words. And then in the case of when illness happens, then also in the following verse, it says, so even if the environment and beings are filled with the fruits of negative karma and unwished for suffering pour down like rain, I seek your blessings to see these the miserable conditions as a path by seeing them as causes to exhaust the results of negative karma. It says my in English, but that shouldn't be there. So to exhaust the results of negative karma. So what this is talking about is, like, for example, when we're ill. So that illness is actually the result of unskillful or negative karma, and if that karma had ripened on us, sometime when we were in the lower realms, then the suffering would have been really terrible. So it's so good that this suffering happened during this life as a human being. And we must think to ourselves, in this way, that karma has been used up, and feel very happy about the fact that it's being used up. So it's just like when we're doing our purification practices, confession of negative actions, then we're encouraged to think at the end, all of my negative karma got purified. And this is something that the Buddha taught, that that we must think in that way, that at the end of the purification, you think it's completely purified, whole thing completely purified. And so then the suffering, so yeah, the reason that it's so much better that it's ripened on us, the result of that karma has ripened on us as a human being. If it happened in the lower realms, if it were to ripen in the lower realms, when we were in the lower realms, then like as a hell being or as a preta or as an animal, then the suffering would be so much more intense, and it would last so much longer, so many years, so much suffering. So thinking in this way, you see, it makes the suffering seem less of a problem to one's mind. So you don't get so much suffering in the mind. Not only that, but it can actually reduce the intensity of the suffering. Without this way of thinking, where you sort of like feel like, oh, this illness is so terrible and I'm never going to recover from it, that kind of thought, it can actually make things worse. Whereas when you think in this way, you think, oh, this is the result of my negative karma, and it's so good that it's happening during this life rather than a life in the lower realms. Then it can reduce the suffering in the mind, and the illness itself can be something which we just don't notice so much. No.
Lojong choose at the Nimanga Debe Tusu. Oh, Nimanga Deba, the Janjulam to Kura Yins, Janjulam to Kura Yins, and Janju Dela, Sanji Jukubaimba, Janjugalam Deleta, Kundu Janju Simda, Dundum Janju Sim Yibuti, Tapsing Yibuti Yam and Devati, Teletine, Sanji Jukuba Togo Yerba. Oh, the Janjulam to Kura Yins, Lojong Teletene. 강에 그제 채베네 강에디 전주남도 야교르투야래. 어디에서 님은가부터 전주남도 교라 인세야 되지.
Then we move on in the text, and it says, when the 5 degenerations are rampant, it changes them into or transforms them into the path to enlightenment. So the degeneration is the term that's used in the translation that I'm looking at. What it means is they're often called the degenerations, the degenerate times, and so forth. So what it means is like dregs. This word nyingma, which it says at the beginning of those 2 lines in the Tibetans, it refers to like the dregs, like the what you would normally, the worst, what you would throw away after you kept the good things, then you throw, what you would throw away. These 2 lines are talking about the greatness of the text. So you have the greatness of the author, the greatness of the teaching, the greatness of the text. So this is talking about the greatness of the greatness of the Dharma, of this Dharma. So what it's saying is that in degenerate times, in the times of the dregs, then when you have no other way of practicing, then this practice of mind training transforms such circumstances into a path to enlightenment, in other words, to Buddhahood. So when we talk about the 5 degenerations, without going through them one by one, we talk about the dregs of the lifespan, or the degeneration of the lifespan. So, and then the dregs in terms of the era or the time. So in other words, all of the good times have gone, and now we're at the sort of like the worst kind of time. Likewise, there's that we talk about the degeneration of the afflictive states, the klesha, and then of the view, the sort of philosophical view or view of how things are. So we're talking about a time in which people don't have so much regard for the 3 rare and sublime ones in karma and its results, where there's a predominance of wrong views, of extreme views, and so on. And so what this is saying actually is, when it talks about the 5 degenerations being rampant, in terms of an analogy, the more wood you have, the bigger the fire you'll get by setting it alight. So in a similar way, the more suffering there is, the more difficulties, the more powerful the mind training practice. So it's during such times of these degenerations or the dregs, when we have when there's really no other refuge, nothing that's going to protect us other than this practice of the mind training. And remember, mind training means using these situations to enhance, to nourish our practice of the 2 bodhicittas, conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. So the way that we're practicing these 2 together means that we're practicing in method and wisdom inseparably. And that results in enlightenment. And so what it's saying then is, depending upon the practice of mind training, any problem, any difficulty can be used as a means to achieve Buddhahood by developing the two bodhicittas. Now,
Tade Nima Shebas Dua
no,
Tangma Lepanam Ngondo Sue Ningru Tabu Nyembala Seres Ta Nima Seati Penesegi Nima Segi Rodutil Sigar Samolunya Secherba
no.
Segi Nima City Segi Tangmati Se Yagadirba Segi Tangmati Pa Zochani Segi Ningru Rabati Tile Segi Nima Sigarba Tinashi Ane Ngondo Sung Simbes Lebanam Ngondo Sung Ningru Tabam Nyambala Savas Serve Doing Manis Ta doing Matiri Tambu doing Mati Zongdenta Nindent Sumden Sage Ane Zonde Silicaba Seati Tanda and Zonde to Seatiri Zonde Silicaba to Seatila Tell Ani Tajagutumbati Pebri just Tajagutumbati Aranzula Kati Shintu Chea de Karasan Sanje Shengi Nimangabu Dujati Dujetun to two Majibachene to Kenya Majumi Imbre. Ne Tajagutumbati Nimangabu Simjeti Dundu to Jenny. Tajagutumbati Nimanga Dus Pebri Sanje Shajatubati. Just an Sanje Shini Jankati Cho in Sati Marandula. What is Tatila Zongden Sachi, duty Zongden Sachi, Indian Sumden Seta, Zunde Telukaba Sachi, Jet Dushibi Nantony, Odi Chesane, Tigeti Chinsaris, Karasuda. Zongden da, Indian Zongden dance, Indian so Mula Sone Nima Zunde Chulukabe Dusu, Sanje Shaja Tuba Jumbe, Dadani Nima Lejang Chi Nimar Nima Usta Zondegi Dusu, and Chulukabe Dusu, that Dumbe Shaja Tuba Pebri, Jebri. Dadani said, send the Chulukabe Shaja Tuba Penny. Yangali Denny, Ronya Tunga Jane, Nubiarva. Chinsaram Sanata, they do the Nim, Lejang Nimmer, Tearis. Nima, Nimen Agi Nima, or the Sunny. Nima Leja, Cherry Nima, who thus digita, doing Nima say at the Tiri. Zondeg to super, Zondeg duty. Zonde Telugabe. Zonde Telugabe duty, doing Masiere. Do somebody get the Kangaya Chinta, that doing Mati Sanje Jumde de Shajatoba Jambulin to Jumbe Tutila, doing Masiere. That is and the Tade do the delay young retare. Jumde de June, young Helen Denny, Loni Tunga Jet Chintaraba. Tade do the doing Menagima. Tendecere diarece.
Contarimsi de Delada Zogden Casta Galot Celo Gabare, Candesumbre.
Zonde Celu Gabetu.
No.
Zonde.
Zonden.
真的总的是的当不定吧。
No, so.
今年年底送的了是不是些？到今年真的吃了夹巴些的。
Le Sundin de Tilogam. No.
吃了夹巴对的，真的个对些。
So, again, looking at this idea of the degenerations or dregs. So, no, we might talk about like the dregs of the food. So when all the good food is gone, sort of like the leftovers, that's all you have to eat. The good stuff's gone, so you have what's left. So so we talk about the 5 degenerations. There's the degeneration of the time or the period kind of thing. So our particular time, the time that we're living in, is a time of strife. That's when the Buddha came into the world. So actually, the thing is that the Buddha Shakyamuni is considered to be kinder than other Buddhas because other Buddhas wouldn't accept to come into the world at the time of the degenerations, whereas Buddha Shakyamuni took it upon himself to come and help the sentient beings during the time of these degenerations. So at the time of the Buddha, that was already a time of the degenerations. So the degeneration of time, or the period, which is a time of strife when the lifespan was 100 years. So then when we talk about the time of strife, so there are other periods of time where it's called like a complete Zolden, so anyway, like complete, being complete, then having 2. I'm not sure what these expressions mean, but anyway, so those have gone already. So those are better times. Those times have already gone. And so now this is the period. The period when the Buddha Shakyamuni came, is a period of strife, and where the lifespan was 100 years. So now the Buddha Shakyamuni already passed away over 2,500 years ago, right? So the time that we're living in, it's like more degenerate than degenerate. It's like the dregs of the dregs kind of thing. Like, because it means like the good dregs have gone, and all we've got left is the bad dregs. The dregs of the dregs, anyway. So like this is even worse times. No.
다때네 다 샘제닝 마시데. 샘제닝 마시데 뒤저 영모 셰충아. 아니 뒤라와는 뭔도 민지 드스. 샘제 영모 충아. 뒤라와도서 강고로 니라. 자주초도 샘디케네. 민지 드스임바리스. 다 가르스네 가르하데르스네 심제 뉴모 시치와 두가와 되게 들하데르스 근데들 심제 닝마시게 그래 뉴모 시치와 두가와 되게 다디 심제 닝마시게 그래 심제디 뉴모 시충아 두라와 되게 민지 드스임바리스 그래 다디 심제디 당마르 치르바 다디 루야디 가르레스네 심제 유무시 치와 두카와 디게 레데베레스 데다 딜라 심제 닝마시게레.
Then you have the I mean, I don't know which you prefer, like the dregs of the sentient beings, or the degenerate sentient beings. So what this is talking about is sentient beings whose the sentient beings with less of the destructive states, destructive minds, who are easier to subdue, which, I mean, in other words, to lead on the path. They've already gone. They've already generated bodhicitta. They've already been sort of like brought to a state of ripeness. They've already been ripened. So who's left is just those sentient beings who've got a predominance of the destructive states and who are more difficult to to lead on the path. And so those are called the dregs of the sentient beings. No.
That is changing mass. Telopame tuba. Tuba la ta nyama. Zambulin the tambucha into Zamba Telopame tubiere. In a mama genitat, Selu Gabet to Sanjum de Teperua. I thought in it, Teresa Genbe. Chalungab Jugu Surgiletiaris, Pechoati, and a senior macho at this Chalungab Ju Menjerba team, but didn't dear any Karasuri, Choati Karasuri, Karasuri, didn't do my imbetuous. Dear, do my imbetuous, Juan Sun. Do my imbetuous, the manga every. You chose in it, Chalungabja, Chalugabar, which took Yerba. That do my imbetuous, and is manga every. Whenever you send church, I know maybe. Any Duji Sunny. Ni doing my city. Church, I know maybe. Do the Virginia. Any doing my city. John Mebos.
And they did singing Marvella.
Ore,
No.
hanging myself, Chelunga Palme Tubere, that they do so, Chelunga Jutamla, family me tuji. They are paid do my imba chile, Chua Mare, Church Mebos, that did the singing myself.
No.
Other dear sunny, singing myself the garrison, Church maybe do which that duty. Ngabjuru chile do done church and maybe do legi.
No. Then we have so yeah, this must be maybe this is the third one, but I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so we have then there is the degeneration of the lifespan. So what this means is that when the world, when our world, Zambuling, anyway, when the world was formed, the lifespan was like limitless, extremely long. And then it became shorter and shorter until it reached 100. And that's the time when Buddha Shakyamuni came into the world. And these days, when you look around the world, most people, like they mostly live to about, 50 years. And then there are many, when we talk about degeneration in terms of lifespan, we also see many more people dying before their time, so premature death. And so when we talk about the degeneration of lifespan, we're talking about a situation where one has no time really to practice Dharma. No.
That in Yamushin to Rabe, not the Dhammatabus. That Yamushin to Rabe Tuji, Sanita Yamunima Sevimbre. Yamushin to Rabe Tujiba. That is Sunday Salukaba said, Yamushin to Rabe Tuji, San Yamunima.
And also these times when it's a time of strife, and lifespan is 100 years. That period, is also a time when there is a degeneration in terms of the destructive states of mind. So we're talking about a presence of much grosser mental afflictions during such a period. No.
Tatine Tawanying said that was Sambuti Umetawa Tang, Lendele, never nibe, Tawaso Tusu, Mundusung Simbe, Tatawati, Logdata, Taudata, Chetata, Sutimta, Tushu Chunzi, Le Sobatusu, Tarwe Dure Jimbre, Tisu Shecho, Tarwe Chitu. Umetawa Lendele Ichibe Lendele Tushin to Tawa to Desma Shuchung the Chi. Tawang but to shoot cherry to Tawang Masi.
Then the fifth one, a degeneration in the view, sort of like, the worldview. So we're talking about a period when there's not so much of the view, the middle way view, in other words, the view of emptiness, nor likewise the view that understands, which has some kind of like certainty about the operation of the laws of karma and its results. And instead, there being a predominance of wrong views, the extreme views, nihilist views, and also mistaken views about morality and conduct. No.
Tine Genge Tamje, Lojong Gutros Jedi, Gomba, Genge Chitam, Mawa Zamdu. Ani Jawa Pedo Chewani, Bena Meda Pushin. Tati Genge Rudzimbe Negabs, that and the Genge di Nimangabu Dube Dudilla, Dewa da Due Yungshi. Meda Mima Imbe Chewaso Chida, Nyumuda, Nada Soji, Nangi Gengi. Nyambashindu Mawa Tungegi Genge Runzimbe Dui Ta Di Dui de la Caresine, Ta Lojong Digi, Genge Tamje, Lojongi, Rosu Jedi, Gomba, Gen Jidam Mambutam, Mambutamdu, Gewato Pewani, Penatati. Genge ta Nimangabu Tivitus, gang and Batit Shitagi, Jachimbuche, any Jan Sambutus, Numera Chiriba, Tichina, the gang and Bati, Georgiani, Bena Meda Pushin, the Med Membawache. Ne Pushin, Chitam Mawa, Titamji, member of Cheva Indies. Chesa Gang Nazalos of a gang and Mambu, Yuba Titina. Ani Gang did a tear into Ani Sing Rabuti, Sing Top Chamber the Tesona, they give out the tennis. Ani member of Cheva Indies. Kara Bejan, Kara Gumjun Singati, Gadam Belamachre. Genge Gave Shinis, Gang and Bati Gave Shinis, Dunge to be Chanshins, Dunge di Tibachaya Vish, Chama the Wins, Paje Gejur Kumais, Paje di Kewalo Kumache Chigiaris. Dewa de Tunge Medunagini Kewa to Sigiaris, Tunge Yundu Zamba, that Tunge Dugmarva, Dewa Dugurba. Chesan Tungamindu Dewa Dugu Ani Kejun, Dewa Trup Siak, Baje Gave, Gumayens. Sim Mega, Judo Matang Angs, Sim Magawa Majis, Oda di Karakumjum Dinisungri. Chesan King King by Ganje Chicheni, Giveshin Yitabu Taguris. Tungeti Ganje Chunsuni, Ani Dibashayagi, Chayagi, Chamat Jibari, Tungere Yundu Tibet Debre said to Yerba. Tungangolo Tibet Debreba. Tungere said to Ani Tibet Tandu is just a tabati Susu Langan Debus every Gutun Seti. Kenganum to her this Tibata. Teda doing him to any Tiba Gumayans. And it Baje Gumayans. Some Megawa Judu Matan, some Megawa Majis, Shesumba Tunge Tamje Munji, Lang in Be Debu Yimbe, Chumia, Gegi, Tiba, Da City. Karine Ken condition in Bachi Chunju Chichunia. Di Mugegi Tibat Tadu Yare, Ken in Banya, Ken in Bas Chunju Chichunsone, Di Chunju Tibat Nima Tibat Saber Debians and Titadores, Chunya, Mugegi Tibatas, Teda Tedandulana, Chame, Tedandulana, Chame. Cha bar jeba dar didi da dadu shindu chiwe na chanju gu lamdu gyurwa yinu sita chame ge diba di dandulana sayadi dandulana chama ge chabe chabar jebe jeba dar didi dadu chiwa res dandu malana Kenga Tungaji Chung to Tunga Tandu Malana, Tibat Tas Samba Machena, Tibatato Chungris. Tibachi said Durba, Tibachi said to Rete. Tibatasu Samba Tichevin, Tibatato Chevere. Jesani, Tibet Devon Retere. Or Redici to Tibet Devon said to Yere. Sabatanyam to Sesuniam Barabichuna, Tibatato Chevere is Chevere.
No. So when we talk about so okay, so transforming the bad conditions, adverse conditions into the path. Particularly here, we're talking about the bad conditions of the 5 degenerations. So the practice of Lojong transforms all of that, transforms it all into the path. So when you look at our world, then we can see that there are more bad conditions, or let's say anyway, adverse conditions for practicing Dharma, and less good conditions for practicing Dharma. And as I mentioned before, it's like a fire and fuel. So when there's a lot of fuel, then when that fuel meets with the certain conditions, then there'll be a really powerful fire that burns from that. And so just like that, when the more bad conditions there are, then when they meet with the virtue, the practice of virtue, then that becomes like a very powerful practice. And in fact, so what it mentions is that in relation to this, along these lines, there's the saying of the great Kadampa Geshe Gomjung. So he says that what he said was adverse circumstances are a teacher. They're like the virtuous friend. They're like our virtuous friend. Suffering is like a broom to clear away our negative karma, to clear out, to purify negative karma. And hindrances encourage us to practice virtue. And he ends the verse by saying, so don't be unhappy with them. So the thing is that even a little bit of suffering is the result of our previous unskillful or negative karma. And so when we experience that suffering, it's the negative, that karma does get purified. But if we accept it willingly, so that's the big if, it says if we accept it willingly, in other words, we think, oh, that's good, now my negative karma has been purified. If we actually think that way, then the purification is much stronger. So even without thinking that, you are purifying your negative karma, but it's much stronger purification when you think, it's been purified. Now it's gone. No.
That in Manga teaching but the Silimpani Cuba is to
No.
that the Cuba the Shigari.
No.
Cuba the George Lama Lojong Lama de la Sumiare. Damare Kita Signete. Champion Job Chambuje. Lama Silim Basumiare. Tinane. Manga teaching but the Lama Silimpani Cuba is. Silimpani George like Cuba in Bray. George ne Chagawala March Cuba in Barba. Just a Menga Tuzi Nimbuti, Silimpani Cuba in Sati, George Lamatilla, Lojong Lamatilla, Lojong Tamashu Lamatilla Sum Damarekita Siati, Lojo Sunjakulu Sunyetri. Ne Chambene Joba Chimbo Siachiare. Ne Tine Lama Silimbas. Ti sumgi nane Silimpani Cuba in Sati Tires.
No. Then just after that, in our text, it says, this instruction, the essence of nectar, essence of nectar, comes in a lineage from Suvarnadvipa, which is, who we normally refer to as Selingpa, Lama Selingpa. So these two lines are talking about the lineage of this teaching. And so Lama Atisha had three teachers from whom he received instruction on mind training, on Lojong, those three being Dhammarakshita, who is the author of the Wheel of Sharp Weapons, then also the great yogi Maitri, or he's known as the Maitri Yogi, and then the thirdly Lama Selingpa. So this instruction, it states here, came from Lama Selingpa to the great master Atisha, and then gradually came down to Geshe Chekawa. No.
Tatine. Tata Lojong Shenas, Lojong the Shesunas Chevere. Ane Lojong la Tongji Kibe, Junes, Lojong Mingdilla, Tongji Kibe Junes Sigare. Ane Tewa Jen Sigare, Kande Sigare. Mamba Gave Xing Xie Jawas, Lojong Gombe, Lu Digi, la Serva. In this, Lojong Gombe Lu de la Tongji Kibe Junes Gibre. Ani Kandes, 대화진스 아니 뭔가세 간데세 간데 이거 친데를 봐 뭔가세 데이터 제수 제름버지 뭔가 상기의 신들 뭔가 쓰임을 또 뭔가 써야 돼 제사 대화진의 개수는 기부견자의 친구를 봐 로중 그 담아디 시에서는 딜류디 쉐벨류디 종기기베 중에서 류딜을 때네 아니 대화견자 미슈지기 아니 동해시라는 매버리 셈기 디기디 로중 쉐벨류딜을 때네 아니 셈기 디기디 용기야래 셈기 디기디 중에서는 아니 텔레 종기기베 중에서 류를 나타 중에 류기 나타 되게 동해 파 시기 만해버체 로중 되게 류기 동해 파 시기네 대외 남도 키기야 봐 동해 중선에 대외 남도 키 자주고 있으면 이 배외 남도 키 제가 가르치 강에 가르치 했으니 로중 시에바이나 자주 있으면 배외 조스 키 두고야래 대외 중에 봐 자주고 있으면 배외 조스 키스나 나는 매 대화가 중에 되다 로중 되는 거래 나는 매 대화가 중에 되 로중 되게 해서 로중 시베 간사의 규율들 종기기베 중에
동기
와진
기부 중에
뭔가 간데 시베 미다그리
종기세디 가르송 송돌라
종기세대 지다 종다 종기세대 종기들 종거대 만부지 뒤베 실내 종기세대 자침부레도가 종다 종기세대 종만부지 종거대에 있는지 뒤발라테는 종기세대도가 종기세대 자침부지래 제가 로중 신예 되게 가서 되게 류디 종기기베 중에서
And then the text goes on to say that if you know how to practice mind training, then the body of such a person it's referred to in various ways. So one is so like a city which is a source of happiness. It sounds something like that. Zhongge anyway is like a city, and then the happiness, and then a source of, but the body is known as a city which is a source of, or a place where happiness arises. So what this means is that when you know how to practice mind training, then through your practice of mind training, you won't experience so much suffering, because suffering of the mind, because you'll know how to transform it. It's also known as Dewachen, so Sukhavati. So Dewachen is a pure land, the happy realm. And so it's when you know how to practice Lojong, then there's so much happiness. You don't get so much in the actual Sukhavati, the Dewachen, the happy realm. There's only happiness. So it's called the Dewachen or Sukhavati, because mostly you would experience happiness and not so much suffering. It's also known as Ganden, or I think we call that Tushita. Tushita. Anyway, the Yiga Chödzin. Yiga is like happiness of the mind, and Chödzin is like having Dharma. So that part of the Tushita. That's Tushita, Ganden, and so it's that means that that body is a joyful place. It's also referred to as ngunga, so like manifest joy. So the Pure Land of manifest joy is the one where, which is known as where Lama Tsongkhapa actually achieved enlightenment. So the thing is that it's referred to in these various ways by these different names of different Pure Lands, because if you know how to practice mind training, Lojong, then the suffering is like so almost like unnoticeable. So this expression is used like when the sun rises, then even though the stars are there, you can't see the stars; they become unnoticeable. Like that. So it's like the suffering becomes unnoticeable. No.
That is Tinamache, that Dundam Simgigi. Dundam Simgigi. And Ishig Cho Sabe. Ishig Cho Sachi, Tila Jile, Deburan de Punto, Chugu, Tobachigiri. Ani Kunzo Simgigi, Sunam Gito Sajing. Tila Jile, Sugushan de Punto. Tubachigris, Tubus, Sugutubus, or that Tine, Janju Semni Digi, Tundam Simgigi Tine, Ishig Tosa, Digi Laji Dili Chugutubris, Sanjigasai. Ane Kundo Simgi Digi, Ane Sonam Sosa, Di Laji Dilla, Sugu number Nibuti Tugris. Te Santa Chusuju Kuni to be a Sigares. Tinsane a Chanju Kuni Tandam Chanju Santa Kundu Chanju Semi Bati Lachiti Chigi Sonam Stasa, Chigi Ishig Tota, Chigi Chugutu, Chigi Sugutu, and it to eat Tajim Sanji Kubanti to be a Sigare.
Through practicing ultimate bodhicitta, then you will be building up the collection of wisdom, and the result of that collection of wisdom is the form body, not the form body, the truth body, or the Dharmakaya. And then through practicing conventional bodhicitta, you're creating merit, you're building up or you're gathering the collection of merit, and the result of that collection of merit would be the two form bodies, or in other words, the two types of rupakaya. And another way of putting that is through practicing ultimate bodhicitta and conventional bodhicitta, then you will achieve the enlightenment, Buddhahood, and fulfillment of the two objectives of oneself and of others.
Atine, Tati Lojong, that Sabare Losungi, Lojongi, Chua Shesunga.
No.
Ane de Lojong de Gale Jun, Kung Tisi, Lama Silimban, Gyumed said Shesunga.
No.
Tene da Lojong, Kunzo da Tambe Chanju Semi Butigi, Chigi Shig Tosa, Chigi Sunum Tosa, Chigi Sugutu, Chigi Chugutu Bris, Shesunga.
No.
Or that is that Lojong Saturdays. Or the Yansane that Lojong Saturdays. Ane or that Lojong Tasus, Shui.
No. Well, that completes the explanation of mind training, Lojong, which we've taken 3 years to get through. I just talked about the greatness of the text, the greatness of the Dharma, and also its source, which is Lama Selingpa. And I talked about what also the text refers to, which is that through practicing ultimate bodhicitta and conventional bodhicitta. One of them principally builds up the collection of wisdom. One principally builds up the collection of merit, and through those two collections you achieve the Dharmakaya, the truth body of an enlightened being, and the Rupakaya, the form body of an enlightened being. So anyway, what I want to say is now the teaching on mind training is finished. So are there any questions? Over to Kath.
I have some questions that came in by email. I have a sense that, I mean, they came in prior to the teaching. I have a sense that Rinpoche has covered most of them. There's one quick one about, hang on a sec. Yes, about commentaries in general. Just saying that there are commentaries that explain the meanings of texts. Do we have to understand the meanings according to the different commentaries, or can we create our own understanding of what the words and verses can mean according to our own life and our experiences?
Okay. The jidangi chikshuayus, the morangi de diwamares, the michigi de diwadires, jidanjina de jidang jabamambu yoroas. Benada sawa di shisha chene na de dil jaba ching di jaba mambo yorwas da ngazo de samlutandu gongadu da di sawa di gi danda jaba di nanshin samlutan ko gi na rangso chik chene digi na rangi chik danda chik sona digi na benad da jaba la dinde dos nge samla dinde res chik rangi chik sona danda chik sona digi res.
They together that the debate chida debate tumbajuna the debate sunye tigi chanju sim nyamlen le chane ane nyamlen gi choa tigi thone shugiyarba yabuyaris tide ni deda tumbar chungsuna ni rangi ti chene digiyaris.
Yeah, you can do that. However, if you think about it, you know, if your way of thinking, you know, if you try to think along the lines of the commentary, that's really excellent, because the thing is that the commentator will have practiced and got some kind of feeling, some kind of experience through their practice, and then composed the commentary in accordance with their experience. And for this reason, it's really good to, you know, to think along the lines that is indicated by the commentary. No. So, other question?
There's another one that came in from a different person by email prior to the teaching. I'm just being fair here. So one of them is, if we transgress our mind training commitments, is there a way to purify that transgression like with the other types of vows?
Okay. Rinpoche de chidan chidan ngazu de pena damsi domba dinzu dang gasona. Pena de kanda de damsi gesha chidan chidan ngazu de lojongi damsi gyora. Lojongi damsi. Namgi ngazu de wanda uchi shune en damsi chik chasona yanda de nyamsona. Ane di dishagi de nyamni chik chegoro apena de dangjuleya dan dinde de yoras. And dinajin ngazo de lojongi damse dan gasona ane karichegores.
Damje de gasona ni lojongi nyamne. Lojong nyamle laria lojong nyamle li bene tamje dengewa to su gyoba gyosimki ane ti shabe chedu ya lojong nyamle nyamle le beati ta zures Lojong nyam damzi the gas on Lojong with damzi Lojong the Payusha. Tai damzi the gas on Samba Chigu Amaris. Damzi the gas on it, damzi the soya gichetu. And then Lojong with damzi lion bed. Tombani Tawa Gumia. Ani Janju with Sim Gumia. Just a Tombani Tawa Gumia, Nyambun and Nyambu Choti Kubacheraba. Nyambu Kundu Chivet top de, Tibashaya top, Nyambu Kundu Chivet top de, Tunyu Kumbate, Choti Kubayin, Jimba. And it's Janju Sim Community to Tibat of Jeshin to Meseba, Tenny Top as Janju Sim Membe, Geshin Gangi, Siki Nobri Kurus, Jenny. Tibat of Jeshin to Mesebati, Tabet of the letter, Janju Sim Choti Kubaris. Tene tude meshi tijinam kechi kinis yeba sepachis. Ane ti yesane chanju gisem nyibuti nyamletli ya shukyayati. Chebe na ane tamzi nyambati so duguyari. Ane nyamleti ya kone kuntu pe duguyari. Ane ti yesane tinde chires.
Well, the thing to do would be to bring up a feeling of regret for the mistake that you've made, and then to push ahead and really work hard at the practice of mind training, to continue, to keep working at it. Don't think to yourself, well, I've broken it now, so I might just as well give up. So that would be a mistake. Rather, with that sense of regret, then just push ahead, try hard with the practice of mind training, which means meditating on emptiness and generating bodhicitta. Meditating on emptiness, actually, if we look at the different possibilities for the antidote, there's a whole list of antidotes. Meditating on emptiness is the supreme antidote for purification. And then bodhicitta also, like it says in the Bodhicharavatara, there's a verse in the Bodhicharavatara when it's talking about the benefits of bodhicitta. It says that in the case of a very powerful negative karma, which is like endless, it's described as endless, then nothing really can purify such negative karma like bodhicitta can. And bodhicitta can purify in so much negative karma just in a moment, just like in a dark night when there's a flash of lightning, then everything is suddenly lit up. So these are, they're both very powerful ways to purify. So again, then the idea would be to keep practicing those two and those two bodhicittas, conventional ultimate bodhicitta, and in that way, you're where you've somehow made a mistake, done something against those samaya pledges of the mind training, then they'll be restored, and also your practice will get stronger and stronger. No.
Thank you. If there's time, this could actually be an entire teaching in itself, so perhaps it's too big of a question, but there was a question also, please can Rinpoche tell us how to meditate on a text such as this Lojong text and other texts? What do we need to do during these meditations so we can do it more correctly and not make mistakes?
Then Rinpoche, I need the beja dinanjin chila de gom gagina, gom kandis gyagores, non tru mayong echidu, kandis gom kandis gyagores, dichi shudos.
Ta gom jaya se de jida gom la ni yare jagum dan jugum se jini yares. ane pena kundu janju sim kombati chana so jagum res tongle kumpa mi bache urwa ani tonglengi mi bache de pa tongya chulen adi niji mi bache ne tunge chumje chulen aje tine chuleni ani simje tamje tunge tamje to chawa che sung sambache tere sem gaje cha pe ya bu chung sung sambache ya rangi tege tamje pa tang simje tamje la pa tang mi bache tani simje tamje tega phusun chuba tan demba che sung sambache ani ya tile 가고 근데 제대 군주 전주 심 군주 되어데 제금시야래 규제만부 삼네 제금대 로도 공근안에 제금대 배 인식장으로 지송구도가 로라 예버터 쳐야지 제금대 되게야래 다 군주 전주가 전담 전주가 심 고인도 나시세베 최던지 도배 파다 점래 유딘의 주부 뒤점이 매스지 아니 동상 코라라 그제 네트워체 디르 문에 파 타제디 유딘이 군의 주부 뒤점이 매스 최던지 도배 파다 점레스 야리디 도배 파다 점레 유딘의 좀 뒤점이야 매세메 저는 맹가딜라 이 띵네 주바라 시기 주바 매세 맹가딜라 샘시지도 내내 가종 투투 종야디 아니 다 조디 조금 그술 제리스 야디네 미바티 더스는 양조 미바티 세답 최든자라 시기 매베 교제 주tumjara shiki yamare karasane tendi sambati chigiri rashiki tumna kana me tuba tugu yare chasa ti kana me tuba rawantu tuba chikugiri timara temendo tendi resha sayati chicha ya chutumjara shiki tumna yudingne tumna pata shi chebe tsene chungi yuyu kuri titane mendo sambache 규제니 삼규야래 야 규제니 대삼 규제니 대삼찬이야 라시 최점자라시 주바 뒤상에 냠바다가라 지지도 가제 네트도 네버체 아니 대깔에 가제제 시 공부이네 대금 아니 대바샤베는다 다동이 금지대 데리죠 조금 제 담보대 제금 제보로 봐. 라시메베 규젠티 라시그 좀나 유티네 두고리 대tum나 다시 제베츠는 이고리 띵이기면 두세야 지제. 야 최점제 라시그 좀 말이스. 얘네 라한도 두고리스. 샬라 뜨면도 두고리스. 샬라 뜨면도 주면도 최점제 땡데리샤스. 되네 좀 샤다리샤 삼네. 땡데 김제트체. 다데 주된 제발라 때네 최점자라 시우트바. 때네메 설로 타제네. 다가라 냠바샤야틀. 아니 아라시메베 타와 군지티테레. 다데스 야네 양도 제버치고리 장구름 붙이기 근데서도 로망부지레 티제베인스 드네 녀와 쳐야데 다데데 튕구도 시기 숨구야르바 만안도 남사 딘데지 삼발을 때네 남사 전심에 따와 게토야 말이 르금지가 마마우 제베 남시지나 내레시메 시아틀 조카야지 레용구야리 어디 첸델레네 요브레 Chendela Machine, Sechimani, and Rashime Betawa Telani Rashime Betawa, the Teba Jingle to Seni, Chudan de Rashigi Mebe. Kunzu da Chanjuga Semi Yamlet, Joanna Tamjet, Serap Tamjet to Yamlet Mendation. Ani Chanjuga Semi knew to Mun to go a jingle to Seni. So at the Gugare, this or the Gugare. Ani ya Chanju some Chanjuga Semi the Karasugare. Sangi now Kandich Chasune, Chanjuga Semi Pere. Rosu you are chingy to Selamala Soto. Yan Joan instead of Tamjetu, Janjuga Semini, Chingy Malova to be giving it. Giving Deming issues to Jin, just Zimba chingy left to so at the Tita Vena. Janjuga Semini new to Giag, Bajaji Shagari, and it's Janjuga Semini. Gang Sani Karish Chan Janjuga Semini. Rosu Guyagi, Chagin Jukuyari, Nikiwan, a set of Tamja to Janju Simi, Chinji Malo to be Gavashing Mefuma, Gavashing in the minis, Jinsun Ziagi, Google to Yari, Manam Titanda in his job. What did they say? And Yat and Jugusimi come to the Chavures.
Well, there are two types of meditation. We have analytic or checking meditation, and then concentration meditation, also called placement meditation. So in the context of this text, how you would do those two meditations, in the case of bodhicitta, it would be mainly analytic meditation, which means that you're going to be practicing taking and giving. Taking, where you're meditating on bodhicitta and you think of the suffering of all sentient beings, and you in your meditation you take on all that suffering so that they're totally free of suffering. So you think, in your meditation, you need to think, I completely freed all the sentient beings of all their suffering. And this is just so good. And then you place your mind a while on that without, just single-pointedly. Meditate on that a little. And then also giving, where you're meditating on loving kindness. Think about the sentient beings. Imagine that you're giving them the most wonderful forms of happiness. And then meditate on joy. Make your mind joyful and keep your mind in that experience of joy at having given all the sentient beings all of that happiness. And so with analytic meditation or checking meditation, then what you're doing is you're using lots of reasons. So you're approaching the topic of your meditation with many reasons. And this form of meditation is what brings understanding. It's what brings certainty about the topic. This is something His Holiness the Dalai Lama often underlines. In the case of meditating on emptiness, because you've also got, not just conventional bodhicitta, but also ultimate bodhicitta. So for meditating on emptiness, you think that all phenomena are completely empty of existing by their own nature. And so you analyze, and through your analysis, then you come to this kind of like empty experience, like an empty appearance to your mind. And you keep your mind in that as much as possible. So that's, meditating on emptiness, which is, what do you call it, a non-affirming negation. So you're just meditating on that negation of the thing existing from its own side without affirming anything. And so then outside of the meditation, thinking about how everything is a mere imputation from the side of the conceptual mind. And then you think about how they appear to exist from their own side, but they don't exist from their own side. And you use the reasons which I'm just about to explain to understand how they don't exist from their own side. And so then you would meditate on that, voidness or lack of existence of a thing from its own side. You keep your mind on that. And then when you lose the object, then you go back again to analyzing, and until you get the experience again, and then you focus on that one pointedly again. And so how to the kind of reasoning, there's two types of reasoning. One is thinking about dependent arising, the reasoning of dependent arising. What that means is the way that the thing appears is like it exists from its own side. So if it exists from its own side, or in a sense, another way of putting it, I should say, on the object, then if it exists as it appears, then it should be completely independent. In fact, it's not completely independent because it's a dependent arising. So it doesn't exist as it appears. So that's one line of reasoning. Then likewise, if the thing existed from the side, if the object existed from its own side, then it would have to be findable when you look for it, when you analyze and look for it in its base of imputation. But in fact, you can't find anything when you look for it. So there are those two reasons. So when meditating on emptiness, the main thing is the placement meditation. But to get to that point where you can do the placement meditation, then you need to analyze first, using those two reasons, that the thing should be findable and that it should be independent if it exists as it appears. And so His Holiness the Dalai Lama has said many times that he has done this kind of meditation repeatedly for many, many years, right? He did that for that kind of meditation. And through that, he says, he has gained a little bit of experience, through meditating on emptiness. So when we do this practice, then, we shouldn't expect to get quick results. If we get an experience in this life, then that's really good. Otherwise, then we make prayers to be able to meet with qualified teachers that will be able to explain this to us, and to never be, make prayers never to be separated, to be inseparable all throughout one's future lives from qualified teachers, and make prayers never to be parted from the two bodhicittas, ultimate and conventional bodhicitta. And it's really important to make these requests, the kind of like prayers or request to the guru. You're making a request to your guru, to be able to practice the mind training, whether things are going well or whether things are going badly, to always meet with and be guided by, in life after life, by qualified teachers. And when you make this kind of request and prayer, then this creates the imprints to be able to practice the two bodhicittas, and it will help us to be able to develop these two bodhicittas. No.
Datine lojo tindi mate kishi chagawa chimbi zebaris. Ani tange tande jeba shuyati nguju dhamma bandragi zebatiris.
The 7-point mind training that I've been teaching was composed by the great Geshe Chekawa, and the commentary that I've used was composed by Ngulchu Dhammabhadra. No.
that
So we'll stop there. Okay. No.
So I'll put up the closing prayers, and just again to say thank you so much to both Rinpoche and to Geshe-la, and to all who have made this possible. And may we work well with what we have received. We'll be sending out the recordings in a couple of days. Thank you, everybody.
And to chesa. Rinpoche dang, Geshe-la dang, any the mitsamala to cheshu yes. To ches. Za je pegin juji me to Cham re ram li ji nien de ge pan de sang ge jing du mi te wa ge ra ge nam dai jing na ju ba shuan jie zu la mi gu zi ram te jin nam ga jin le shui ju yi ban dong lo zan jin be jin me sa sun gi zhou wei mu se ta tu ning yu ji dang gu ru ra na men da la gam ni da yang ge den du jie Gaden duje kamsu tinle jo toju tabu lunto gizi chi loze namla ri landu mete landun gewe jela shabden jo janjo zunjo rinpoche ma ge panangi guji geba nyamba meba kone kondo beba jo jambe bao jita kimba Kundu zambo te ante jinde te ta kungi chesu ta lo chi kewa te ta rabdo nga to san shebe kyawa tamchi ki ngowa kan la cho to nga ba ta ki kewe sawa ti kun kyan zambo chu chi rab ngowa ki kan re ra we ko we shingan de pendan te wa ma lu chung wen jen re zi wan ten jing kya zo ye shabe zi te pa Thank you.
thank you
Tujina.
Geshe-la touches
Los. Yan remedial the Tujinans. Okay, I think that's it.
Tuchena, Rinpoche la,
yeah touches
Geshe la.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you, Venerable Steve.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Venerable Steve.
Yeah, thanks. I think she's gone.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I listened to lectures, last 2 lectures.
Good.
Thank you. But I finished this book, Lojong, this book.
Oh, good.
Yeah, by Ken Wilber. It's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable.
Yeah.
It's
See everybody.
seamless. Your translation is
so much.
seamless.
Unseemly.
Wonderful. No, seamless, without seams, without
Okay.
ruffles.
Okay. Okay, see everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
Venerable
Goodbye, everybody.